Hi, I'm Jamie,
I'm Patty, and this is Motley Zoo Animal Rescue.
and our podcast, Rescue Shit.
Oh,
Yay.
I should have been like, oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Do it again.
Okay. Rescue Shit. We finally remembered the squeaker.
We
I'm
did.
impressed. I'm
Mhm.
impressed, Patty, because I didn't remember.
I got it this time.
So today we're going to talk about lost pets. What happens when you lose a pet, some ways to get them back to you, and what to do if you find a dog, especially. Cats are probably going to have to be trapped. They don't usually come to you. But so I feel like we're lucky because this hasn't happened to us very often.
Right.
I think in the history of Motley Zoo, I only remember 3 dogs going missing. I remember 2 cats going missing, which is pretty great for 16 years.
Yeah.
And I would say almost every week we hear about a dog from a rescue that gets out. And so it really seems to be pretty impressive that we're pretty good about it.
And then she just jinxed us.
Fuck, I did. I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I shouldn't even have said that.
No.
I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, because the universe is going to be like, hold my beer, bitch.
Why do I do that?
I don't know.
That's the story of my life.
But anyway, if that happens, at least we're prepared.
Yes, we will listen to our own podcast and figure out how to find them.
Take the steps.
So one of the dogs that I ended up fostering, I fostered him after he was found. His name was Danny, and he went to the foster home. And one of the mistakes the foster made was letting him out to meet the family in the front yard that isn't fenced. Thinking back on it now, it probably seems obvious, maybe that wasn't a great idea. People don't think that in the moment.
No, they're excited. They got this new puppy. He's so cute. Yeah, you don't think, oh, this cute puppy is scared. And the minute I open that door, he's going to book it.
Yeah. And I will say that this foster is now one of our best fosters. She's an amazing foster.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we got through it okay. But one of the things that we do tell the fosters is please don't open the crate until you're in the vet office, in the house, even not in a fenced yard even, because we've had dogs go under the porch and you can't get them out for hours. They have to sleep outside sometimes, which is not cool. But that's because, people really didn't listen to what we were saying. So it's very important not to open a crate of a dog that's new to you or cat that's new to you.
Whether you're fostering or adopting.
Yes. Until you are in a safe place.
Yeah.
And that's true. We've had dogs that, okay.
Remember Jessica?
So it happened to Jessica and...
It wasn't Salute.
What was her name?
Who?
The white dog that I fostered. And then she got hit by a car. And
That was...
Shanatova.
No, but that was a harness. That wasn't... She'd had her a while.
Oh, okay.
That's why we don't like harnesses.
We don't like harnesses. Okay, so going back, a lot of times when people adopt a dog, they think that because we fostered them, that, maybe this... They don't think.
It's very emotional, right?
Yeah.
We're excited. We're nervous. This dog's so cute. I just want to cuddle it and make it feel better. And
No, it's still very likely that they will go running because they don't know you. One of the ways that we combat this is we tell people to keep a leash on, even in the house, because sometimes if dogs are scared, they will go hide under the couch and then you're trying to reach for them and then they might bite because they're so terrified you're cornering them. So having the leash on a new dog is a great idea. Keep a clean indoor one, slap a dirty outdoor one on when they go into the yard, but better yet, don't take the leash out of your hand for quite a while. Anyway, so one of the dogs that got out, Danny, he was gone for almost a week, right?
I thought it was over a week.
Maybe, but it started...
It felt like forever.
It did. It felt like a long time. And, I went out looking for him in the area that we saw him. We set up a trap because somebody said they saw him. Somebody stole the trap.
Oh my God. And they put it in front of the grocery store. Remember that?
I was so mad. But it's funny because I wrote something on Facebook that was like, there's a special place for you that interfere with our, catching our animals. And, everybody thought you wrote it. But it was me. They'd never heard me speak so firmly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we get a call one day and somebody said, this dog is in my backyard. And I'm like, great, close the gate. I will be there in, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I went over there and he was clearly tired. He was terrified.
Yep.
And he was kind of tangled up in the ivy. So I think that's actually what stopped him from running, is that he got tangled up and then he got tired trying to escape.
Well, and he was in a backyard
Yes,
this time.
yes.
So that they could shut the door.
Yes. And I carefully, slowly went over to him, reached out, put the leash on first thing.
Slip lead.
Yep. And then tried to extricate him from the ivy. And he just kind of fell into my arms. And the family that had found him, it was actually the little 5-year-old.
Yeah.
He had seen the posters.
See, the posters work. They say the first thing that you do, get those big, bright posters with a picture.
Yes. He had seen the posters and he said, Mom, I saw this dog is missing. There's a poster. And he showed her where to find the poster. And so we praised him and we told him what a good job he did. I even sent him a little care package with some T-shirts for him and his brother. But they did ask me if they could pet him. And while he was okay with me touching him, I didn't want to take the risk.
Yeah.
And I told them, no, I'm sorry. I don't know how he'll react.
Right.
And I understand why you want to touch him, but I don't think we should do that.
Right.
And the mom was like, okay, totally understand. And I still feel bad that I didn't, but
I mean, this is Danny. Danny's like a little nervous guy, and kids are different than adults for sure. Their energy level, everything like that. I mean, we could have the most social dog who's great with adults. Like, there's no such thing as a stranger. And then you have a kid enter the room and they're like, what is that?
yeah,
Some
dogs just really,
Chia.
don't like children. And so I didn't let them pet him.
Mm-hmm.
I took him home and he was kind of crazy. He was bouncing off the walls and and that's not the kind of dog I usually foster.
No.
But eventually he got adopted.
Yep.
And he started coming to our daycare.
Yep.
He would lose his mind when he saw me, and everything he learned in training would go out the window. And I even boarded him once, and I told her, I feel like I'm ruining his training because I can't manage him, because he just loses his mind, that he remembers that I'm the one that picked him up and saved him. And it's just brings out all these crazy emotions in him that he can't control. So I told her, I don't think I can board him anymore.
Right.
But so this was a good story. It ended up good. And, not like it doesn't have to be a new foster or a new adopter
Nope.
to make a mistake or for this to happen. Even one time when Brian and I were fostering, and this was when we first started Motley Zoo, and we were actually watching the dog of a new foster, he got out the door and ran down the driveway, on the busy road, up the next driveway.
See ya, bitches. I'm out.
And Brian and I were like, we lost a foster's dog. And I had to tell her that we were looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, he was just hiding in the bushes at the
Right.
next door neighbor's house. And we brought our little dog out to kind of try and draw him out or to sniff him out. And that's actually how we found him. Jetty ended up sniffing him out.
Oh, nice.
But, that's me. And I've had a lot of different dogs. And I was really careful. And Brian was really careful. So it can happen to anybody. And that's what you have to remember. The important part is to be prepared and to try and prevent it
Right.
with all these different things. I've really been rambling. So why don't you talk about some of the ways to prevent this in the first place?
Like Jamie said, when you get a new dog in the home, you use a drag leash. A drag leash is basically you let them drag it around. And if a dog is nervous the very first few days, we did a podcast on 333. So the first 3 days they're gonna be touch and go. Some dogs, right? Some dogs are like super like, hey, how you doing? I mean, social butterflies. The majority of dogs, not so much. They're like, I don't know you. I don't know what's going on. So you have that drag leash, especially with the adult dogs, right? Not with the puppies.
Yeah, puppies will eat it. So that's another thing is a puppy probably is going to follow you. And, you know, some dogs will chew those leashes. So on occasion, you may need to get a cable leash or
Yeah.
a lightweight chain leash
Yep.
to work on these things.
Yeah. So the drag leash is one of the first things. If you know that your dog's a door dasher, you can set up baby gates so that they can't get to the door, or the exercise pens, the play pens that you can just blockade the door with.
I think too, hang a leash next to the door and make sure that that leash is on your dog before you open it. Maybe even put a sign on your door that says taking care of the dog, or hang on an extra second because I have to secure the dog.
Right.
This people will wait, like,
Yeah.
and if there's a little sign that says, you know, I have a dog inside
Right.
and I need to prepare them.
I mean, obviously, training is going to help. One of the things that we teach our puppies is what we call threshold training. So, any type of threshold, a doorway, they will stop at that doorway. And if you do it consistently, repetitively, repetition is the key to sink into their brain. They will stop at that door and sit and wait.
Well, and it's important, I think, to also teach them to sit and wait on the other side of that threshold. Otherwise, you're going out the door and they think the minute they're outside, they can run off and they yank your arm out of its socket while you're trying to lock the door.
Yeah. And we've seen those Ring videos. Is that girl? She turns around to like, and then she just like, you know, she gets pulled. I mean, literally like a movie pulled that quickly, and because her dog saw something and he booked it.
Yeah.
With her attached to him, which is great.
Yeah.
And then there's that other one that you see where a guy's on the phone and he's walking out and he's on the phone, and then his little like Frenchie barrels out of the door behind him. And then, like, a car goes over the Frenchie. Like, thank God he got missed.
Do you know that actually happened to Jetty? My fence had alternating slats on the front, on the inside, on the front, on the inside. And there was just enough gap that he ran through. We did not know this, of course, until he ran through. And he ran straight into a car coming, and the car went over him. And I just about lost my shit. I fell in the road and I was like sobbing, and I like crawled to him. And I mean, I was just, yeah. And then he had to have a tether. So we had to have one of those little stakes, and he would just run around in circles. And he was kind of neurotic anyways. So imagine having like a little 5-pound dog on a tether, but it was because he could run right through the fence.
Yeah. But, yeah. And that happens. I mean, that's what happened with Maria was one of our dogs who she had her puppies. We got her with her puppies. She was already nursing her puppies, and she was a little nervous. And I had her in my house, and she got over her nervousness at my house, and the puppies were older. And they had started going off to their foster to adopts, and she was starting to come out of her shell, had some training, all that fun stuff. So it was time for her to go to another foster. And yeah, and then the foster has
Who was experienced.
Yes, and she has 2 small dogs who never left her yard. One of the foster's dogs is smaller than Maria. But Maria found a spot in that fence and was just like, see you, bitches. And the husband is, I think he's a marathon runner. I know he's a runner. So, and he chased her, and then that is not what you're supposed to do.
No, but it's the first thing you're going to think about.
Exactly, right? But, I mean, and because she was booking it. So, I mean, he obviously had to chase her to an extent just so that he could keep her in sight. But he eventually lost her.
I will say that I was boarding a dog, and he did the same. He pushed out the door and ran down the driveway straight to the busy road. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to run out in the road. And I was like crying. But I remembered one of the tricks that you can do is stop and run the other direction and call to them. And then they're like, hey, what are we chasing? And so I'm like, Bosley. I'm like, let's go play. And I started running the other way. And he stopped and looked at me and then ran right towards me.
Right.
And I cried all the way into the house.
But yeah, that works if you know the dog.
Yes, if the
right?
dog is not shy and scared and
and knows you. Whereas like Maria, that was her very first morning with them because she had spent the night, and then the next morning she'd gone.
So they should not have let her off the leash in the yard. That
Right.
is how that could have been prevented.
Right.
Because
yeah.
they will find the hole in the fence
Yeah.
like flies to shit. They will just target on it and they will be gone. You
Right.
think that they won't find it, but they will. Especially a
yeah.
scared dog that's scared.
Right.
And they're like walking the perimeter because they're like, I don't know this yard. I'm all scared. I'm by myself. Even if they're not by themselves, they panic and they will find it.
They're like, oh my God, where am I? Who are you? I'm going to go back to what I know.
So don't let a new dog off the leash in the yard. This is
Yeah.
also a trick to help with potty training too. If you take them on the leash to the same spot where they potty, then it will become robotic for them and they won't do the I'm going to explore and not go to the bathroom. I'm going to go behind a bush and pretend I'm going to the bathroom, but I'm really not.
Right.
These are all things. I say the leash is a $5 tool that solves a world of problems and doesn't let them start.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, we always say when you first have a dog, you are very strict with them and there's no trust built up. But they have to earn that trust. And when they earn that trust, they get a little more freedom. Kind of like what Jamie was saying, you don't let them have free run of the house because they don't know where the bathroom is. They don't know what door is the bathroom. And I mean, we can go into a strange house and be like, hey, where's the bathroom? You know, they cannot. So the leash is kind of your,
Well,
I don't know, like the language is the dog language for them to go to the bathroom outside. Here's how we go outside. Here's the door where we go outside.
and it lets them explore in a controlled manner. You know, they can sniff, but they can only go so far and they have to look back to you.
Right.
And they rely on you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really important.
And then this is the only time that I ever use those retractable leashes.
Oh, yeah.
When you get a brand new dog, I shouldn't say a brand new dog, but a scared or shy dog, sometimes they won't go to the bathroom when they're right next to you because you're just very tall and overwhelming. And they may need a little more space from you, but you don't want them to run amok because have fun chasing them in your backyard. We've had fun chasing not chasing dogs, but trying to get them in the boarding kennel. Yeah.
Sometimes we have 5 people, and this is a dog that's been in someone's house forever, and they're just like, I don't know you. I'm not going back in my kennel. And it's not
even
great.
with her brother there.
Yeah, it's not great when that happens. That
took 4 hours.
That is a frustration of mine.
Yeah. So yeah, we've learned from that, and so we have a smaller yard for the new dogs to acclimate.
New to us dogs that we don't know how they're going to behave in the yard.
Yeah, and then we learn, and if they're great and they're super social, then we'll put them in the big yard. So the same thing applies with the dogs if they're shy in your house or whatever, just so you don't lose them. But say that they do get out, like Maria did, and the first thing that you do is you make the signs, right? Those big, bright, obnoxious signs. The best ones are the ones that you put in the ground.
The corrugated plastic with the metal stakes.
Yep. With a big picture of the dog and your phone number, lost, reward, because everyone likes being rewarded, your phone number, and do not chase, just call us. And I always recommend when we get people saying, hey, I lost my dog or whatever, the first steps are to look at 3 Retrievers. And that is an organization led by Jim Branson, who has scent dogs. And he looks for dogs and cats. He has a dog specifically to find dogs, and he has a dog specifically to find cats. And his website has step-by-step instructions of what to do when you lose a dog. And when you find them, like most people are going to call their dog. They're going to be like, "Hey, Buffy." Yeah, don't do that. You don't want to call them. Right now, they're in an instinctual mode. They got out. They're nervous. They're scared. They're running for their lives until they calm down, right? When they're running, that's an instinctual mode. It's not cognitive. They're not going to recognize their name. They're just going to hear a woo, monster chasing them, like the voice or whatever. So they will not come to their name more often than not. And so that's one of the things that they tell you not to do is call your dog. And you want to make those posters, get them everywhere within a 5-mile radius. If we had not done those signs, we never would have found Danny.
No.
It was a 5-year-old kid in the back of the car looking at these like big old signs, and he couldn't read them, but he was like, I saw that dog because it was a big old sign that was obnoxiously bright with a big old picture of Danny. And another way is word of mouth as well. So you've got Nextdoor, Paw Boost, Facebook. You've got, like Lost Pets Facebook groups.
Yeah, like we have one called Lost Dogs of King County.
And Lost Dogs of Snohomish. Actually, there's 2 of them, and I don't know why there's 2.
Once they're out of your sight, and you need to make these posts, have someone else do it if you're still going to go looking for them or whatever.
And Ring.
Oh,
is
yeah.
another one. Yeah.
Yeah, we've found that these are some of the fastest ways to become reunited with your pets. Is these, what are they called? Social media, I guess. Social media apps. And so it's really important that you try all of the things.
Right.
And maybe you'll get a sighting, then you move some of your signs to closer to that sighting.
Because some dogs and some cats, they're not coming to you. Just forget it. I mean, have fun with that. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say they're not coming to you ever. Some cat may randomly come up to you. But more often than not, you have to trap.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, that when you trap an animal, you leave a trap out, it's really, really important to monitor that trap. You have to monitor and keep eyes on that trap, and especially cats, because cats in a trap can freak out and actually, cause harm to themselves.
The other thing, too, is that people think cats must be long gone, but they're so often actually right close to you and they're hiding somewhere. So look really carefully in your yard and your neighbor's yard. And you have to tell your neighbors that you lost your cat and what it looks like, because your cats often live inside. And so your neighbors may not even know that you have a cat. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
So I totally forgot what I was saying. So let's talk about when Jim went and took his dogs to find Maria.
Oh, he did not find her, but he was able to find her trail, and we found out that she was being chased by coyotes, which was, even more nerve-wracking because she's a little Chihuahua mix. So
how did he know that?
The scat, and then they could smell
her trail and the coyotes.
Yep. And then the thing is, like Jim said, there's a lot of wildlife. There's a lot of rabbits. Most likely, they weren't looking for a meal. They were just, drawn to, hey, what's this? But that's not always the case, as we know, because coyotes do prey on our pets that are out and about.
Right on the leash. They'll take a dog off a leash.
Yeah. So I just want to say, like, if you have an air horn, you should walk around with an air horn, because that will stop a coyote, because those things are loud and obnoxious. They also stop aggressive dogs on the loose, because if you see a dog running at you and you have that air horn and you blast it at them, more often than not, they're going to be like, "Wah!" and then book it, because,
How far away was Maria when she was found? Danny was about 3 miles, 3 to 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah, exactly. There were sightings of her, which was great. But by the time we got to that sighting, she'd already left. And so Gary and I, we're in Monroe. She was in Tampa. We would drive. We drove multiple times anytime there was a sighting.
Tampa.
Did I say Tampa?
Tacoma. I was like, what? Is this a Florida story or is this a local story? Tacoma.
I do that a lot. Anyway, I'm from Florida. I'm not from Florida, but I lived there for a long time. Anyway, So yeah, so we would drive from Monroe to Tacoma. I didn't to Tacoma to try to find her,
Which is like
And-
2 hours.
yeah, and then she was not even there. And then we go home, and then there's another sighting, but she's a mile away, and we're like, great. So we're not even in the right spot. But we had brought our dogs, hoping that that would entice her to come out. It didn't. She eventually got found because she was on someone's porch, like kind of like Danny, how they kind of got cornered or whatever. Unfortunately, the guy brought her in, and guess what? Social media,
That's
boom.
yeah.
They're like, hey, we found this dog. And I'm like, that's our dog.
Well, and he didn't even have to go to the vet and scan the microchip or
Nope.
anything like that because we'd made it a big deal. How
Uh-huh.
long was she gone for?
Like Danny, I think it was like over a week.
And after 3 days, you start to lose some hope
Yep.
because you know what's out there. You know, there's so many coyotes, there's
Yep.
highways, there's roads.
Yeah, she crossed the busy road. But yeah, we fortunately found her. Thank you. And she's been adopted. So Jim Branson has his scent dogs. And Gary is actually our lead trainer, my husband, is actually taking our dogs. Liam and Rob are doing scent work, and they go out and find, they're more dog than cat.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Jim said that you pick one or the other instead of both. So hopefully, Gary will be able to help with that because Jim is in such high demand that
it's
it
crazy.
takes,
Yeah.
it can take him days, and by then you're like, ugh, what's happening within that time frame? Where are they? The scent gets a little bit older. If it rains, I mean, geez.
Well, and how much does this cost approximately to
I
have?
don't know.
Oh,
Is it like 300?
I want to say it's 300. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I recall. And obviously, we'll pay anything to get our animals back, but he is in high demand.
Yeah. And he knows what he's doing. I mean, he's been doing this for a while. And that's why I said, when you lose a dog, get on that. I mean, before you even lose a dog, when you have a pet, you should go to 3 retrievers and know what to do, be prepared, what to do if your dog ever got out, and got lost. Or
Well,
a cat.
yeah. So, what happens when you find a dog? Why don't you tell them about Jason?
Yeah.
He was a difficult
Jason.
dog to
Um,
get.
Yeah. So Jason was on the side of a highway. I got called about him, and
Someone who knew you.
oh yeah. So she called me and said that there was a German Shepherd mix on the side of the highway, that he was scared. People were there not knowing what to do. He wouldn't come to them, and that, he's growling and snapping and lunging. And then I was like, well, have the people leave him the hell alone and let him chill out, And I understand why they were trying so hard, because he was on a busy highway. They didn't want him to get in the highway. And then, people are confrontational, whether they realize it or not. They're not giving calming signals. So Jim talks about calming signals on his webpage. One of the things that you don't want to do, even like friends' dogs, new dogs that you've never met, you never want to face on, right? You don't want to look them in the eye. You're challenging them. You don't want to hover over them, stand over them. So I could hear Jason in the background barking, and it was like a stay away from me bark or whatever. And I could hear this guy giving direction.
To encircle him.
Yes. And I'm like, and I told Brenda, I'm like, tell him to back off. They mean well, but they are freaking him out. That is what that barking is Jason was telling them,
I'm freaking out. Stay away.
leave me alone. He was giving them all the communication, and they just were not listening. And I drove down there, and lo and behold, it's not a German Shepherd. It's an Akita. And I'm like, okay, people, back the fuck off, because seriously, this is not how you approach an Akita, right? And fortunately, someone was there that had their lunch, and they had greasy fried chicken.
Oh,
And that is like a great way to win a dog over. He was up in the blackberry bushes, and I'm like, great. So I got stabbed quite a few times while I went up there to him. But when I went up there to him, I didn't look him in the eye. I did a lot of yawns and eye aversion where I just like glance at him out of the side of my eye. I approached him sideways. I sat on that hill with these stupid blackberries poking me, but I sat below him, you know, and then I inched up so that we were kind of side by side. And then I threw someone's fried chicken. I threw bits and pieces of it to him. Once he'd calmed down and was ignoring me, not panting so hard and not threatened by me. And like we sat there for a few. Brenda had told the people, you know, like, we got this, you can leave. The lady who was eating the fried chicken stayed because she was, I guess, curious to see what would happen.
She wanted her lunch.
No, she was done because she'd eaten it. It's so gross. I don't like to feel meat.
No, but this is a good trick because
Yeah.
just stop by any gas station and grab those
Greasy
chicken things. And then that's probably one of the best things that it will attract.
Because it's so smelly.
Yeah.
And it's greasy. I don't know why, but that grease like smell is a little bit more pungent.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to teach recall, by the way. If you're hiking, every car's horn sounds a little bit different. So if you have Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever, and you train your dogs to come back and then they run to the car after you honk, obviously don't start it out in the woods, but when they start, and then when they get in the car, when they recall from the honk, you give them fried chicken. And that's the only time you ever give them fried chicken.
Yeah, you do have to make it special. You can't give it to them all the time.
So they know when they go in the car with that honk, they're getting fried chicken.
Well, and you told me it took about 2 hours.
It took 2 hours.
To get Jason. And clearly most people are not going to have the patience for that.
Yeah.
And most people would give up. Besides sitting kind of with your back to him or
Sideways.
kind of sideways.
Yeah, it started with the back and then I scooted up a little bit more and then sideways.
And then laying down can help because they're like, why are you laying down?
Yeah, are you hurt?
It's scary with a dog that you don't know, but often laying down, they're just like,
Yeah.
maybe I'll go see what's going on.
Right. And if you're looking at a dog, like don't try it with an Akita. But, you know, like sometimes little dogs are lost, right? And if you lay down, I mean, if you stumble and fall and lay down, they'll be like, oh, what just happened? But yeah, with big dogs, you really don't want to lay down. But yeah, bribery works really well. With Jason, the chicken worked. And first I tossed it to him and then let him eat out of my hand. Obviously, not right away. And then after he was eating out of my hand, then we introduced a slip lead. And then once we got the slip lead, I mean, he obviously backed up and was like, oh, hell no. And I was like, oh, no, here, have some more chicken. He's like, okay. And then when we got down to the car.
Well, but you end up kind of feeding them, holding up the leash in a big loop.
Yeah.
And feeding them through the hole.
Yeah. Multiple times.
So that they're, don't try to catch them on the first one.
No.
Feed them through the loop a few
like
times.
muzzle training.
And then you will lasso them.
Right. Yeah. Like first you just have the slip lead in your hand with the chicken. And then he's like, oh, look at that leash with the chicken, you know? And then you can get your other hand and up. So it's a process. It's not like, here, let's just go.
And if you go too fast, then they're going to know what you're going to do, and you're more likely to lose than
you get that one chance.
Yeah.
You know?
So build that trust first. So before I did Motley Zoo, there was a little dog that went to a new foster, and same thing. She ran out the door, or they just had her in the front yard or something, and she was gone for a month.
You know what? Doggone Seattle has had a dog missing since November, and they just had a sighting.
Wow. Yeah. So there were sightings. I went looking every day, but after a few weeks, you're like, okay, I guess this dog is gone. And she was found almost 10 miles away, maybe not quite.
Wow.
Across highways, still dragging the leash.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason she was found is because the leash got caught between the boards of someone's deck. And so she was stuck, and they could not approach her. But they were able to, I don't know if they took a picture and blew it up of the tag so they could figure out where she was from. and they called the number, and I went to the place. It took me half an hour, of sitting down, feeding treats, slowly moving across the deck towards her. And, by that time, then she was like, okay, she trusted me. And I thought, oh, how am I going to get her in the car? She jumped right in the car. She was like, oh, yeah. But they were like, wow, like that was a process. And I was like,
it is a process.
It is a process. And you
especially if you're the stranger, not the parent. Right?
Yeah. And you can't be too hasty about it. So not a lot of people are going to spend 2 hours, doing that. I will admit I would get a little tired and frustrated at 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, I can't believe that one lady stayed and watched me sit.
Sometimes people get invested.
Yeah.
And they want to see how it turns out. But
Right,
not many people have 2 hours to just sit and watch you.
Yeah, I know. And there's other things I did in between that time, to show that I wasn't a threat. I talk a lot. I might sing. I sing a lot. And it's great for the dogs because they don't judge me, because I'm sure I'm flat a lot.
Well, and why does yawning work? Why don't you explain that?
I don't know why yawning works.
It's
actually dog language. So that is what another dog is going to do for another dog. It's sometimes, and the thing is, sometimes they're stress yawning, right? Jason was stress yawning at me, but I wasn't stress yawning at him.
And they often go, make that
it's
noise.
Really, yeah. And
at
then,
the end.
And then they their stress yawns are so it's really wide. They're like, oh my God.
Lip licking is also another sign of stress.
Yep. And, but if you just yawn a little bit, I'm going to yawn. I was talking about a yawn. Not a halfway yawn, but definitely not like a full mouth yawn.
Yeah.
Because that's more of a stress, right? And then that just signals to them that there's really to really be worried about. I mean, it's a chill day. It's okay. Let's take a nap. It's basic dog language. So you are talking to them in their language when you do the yawning, when you do the aversion. If you see dogs greet each other appropriately, it's not face to face.
Nose to nose.
No. Yeah, it's definitely not nose to nose. It could be, I wasn't like going towards his ass, but you'll see sometimes they go sideways, right? And then that's what you want to do with them.
Or
like
they do the butt sniffing merry-go-round.
Yeah, which,
we're not going to do that.
No, but we'll do the sideways approach. And when you get on their level, and you'll see like a dog, if they're wanting to instigate play and they're showing they're not a threat or whatever, you'll see the play bow where they get lower than the other dog. They're like, hey.
Which is different than cowering and whale eye, which is like when their eyes you can see the whites of their eyes, or they're really stiff.
Yep.
And their mouth is closed and they're squinty. Well, and for Jason, that's how he looks like all the time. I mean, as an Akita, he just looks like he's like staring you down and gonna kill you with his eyes. So
he's a teddy bear, though.
He's a big teddy bear. And it took a little while for us to know him and trust him, meeting strangers.
It took a while for him to trust anyone. I mean, I was the only one in his trust circle because I got him off the highway. But, no one else could touch him.
And I will say, too, this was when we were so full and we really couldn't take another dog in. We tried to go through the normal channels of animal control.
Right.
And they were pretty much like, he's probably going to get euthanized if he comes here.
Yeah, because he's an Akita and he's not going to do well. And they don't have the experience or the
capacity
to work with a dog like that. They'll consider him a challenging breed, and he'll probably bite someone because, they've got the volunteers that don't have the experience to read a dog.
No, and if you get 72 hours to gauge a dog's behavior before they're euthanized, like that's not going to work.
I don't think they give them that long. I don't think they give them that short, do they?
72 hours is the stray hold.
Oh, stray hold, yeah. Well, okay.
In Washington.
He didn't even go to the stray hold.
Well, what they did was they let us do the 72-hour stray hold on our property, which isn't normal. And that doesn't usually happen. And we were trying to reunite him with his family, and it turned out they didn't want him.
That was sketch.
Yeah, it was really weird. So we were like, okay, fine. Now we're committed to this dog. And, so we committed to training him. And now he's so well behaved that when adopters come, they realize that their dog's a big mess and they want to trade us Jason for their dog.
Well, because Jason's well behaved or whatever. And then they realize that their dog may not approach the way that Jason has been taught to approach, and that
that their dog's going to cause the problem.
Yeah.
Well, and Jason really likes the ladies, so it's either someone with no other Akitas, someone with a female Akita, or a female dog.
Yeah.
Or
because his best friend right now is that his two best friends are, because he does better with the ladies, is a husky mix, and then this little poi dog, from Hawaii, poi dog terrier mix. And she's
30 pounds.
35 or something like that. But she's all muscle. But yeah, they're best friends. So he's really good with those girls. So he can be in a home with another dog, preferably a female.
Well, we've had him for 2 years, which is not any kind of reflection of him either.
No, not at all.
It's that we are not going to put him in a home that isn't exactly right for him.
Or capable of handling that breed.
Yeah, and we're not going to give him to a first-time dog person. That's not a good idea. He's not a first-time dog.
No.
And so...
Just because he has a strong personality, right?
Well, I mean, Akitas are aloof, independent. These are some qualities. That's why they make good guard dogs. That's what they've been bred to do.
Well, American Akitas.
Yeah.
The Japanese Akitas aren't as...
They're still pretty fiercely loyal.
They're fiercely loyal, but they're not... I don't want to say aggressive because I hate using that word. But the American Akitas...
Standoffish?
They're a harder dog than the Japanese Akitas, because the Japanese Akitas, they're sweeter, right? Have we heard about Hachi? Y'all should look into Hachi. But I mean, Japanese Akitas are sweet dogs normally.
Well... And we had Astro at daycare, who was the biggest. He was so not an Akita.
He's a Japanese Akita, wasn't he?
Yeah. But then Haley, his new younger sister, very different.
Yeah.
And she would get standoffish and barky at us in the same day.
Yeah.
Even when she knew us.
50 first dates.
Yeah. If you took her off leash, you would have trouble getting her back on leash, even in the daycare room. So...
Anyway, that was a total digression.
Yeah. Okay, so what about finding a cat? If you find one on your porch or something like that, if we're not trapping it, what would you try and do?
If we're not trapping it, get it in the house.
Lead it in the house with some food?
Yeah, I was going to say, is this cat approachable or not?
Yeah.
Because if it's not approachable, most likely you're going to have to trap it. If it is approachable, a lot of family pet cats that are out and about... Some may act feral, but some may be like, oh my God, it's so cold and I'm so hungry. Can I please come inside?
This is why cats have like 3 families sometimes.
Right.
Outdoor cats.
And then that way it's easy. Just put them in your bathroom. Figure out what the scenario is. Go look on social media. Because, those lost dogs, lost cats, whatever. It's not just lost. It's like, hey, I found somebody. We've had to do that a few times, and we've fortunately been able to find the owners, or the owners have found us because of our post that we found their dog.
I know one of the times the reason the cat got away from us was the crate fell apart in the parking lot.
Yeah,
so,
it was, because that did happen to us.
So when you're carrying a new cat, especially a new cat, it's better to, carry the crate and then cradle it with your other arm underneath so that the crate doesn't fall apart. Or put some zip ties through the little holes before you do transports, or, take it out of there.
No, it's best just to light football it.
But don't crush it, because then it can, the door can pop off or whatever.
Yeah.
But that is how one of the cats got away, and we never did find.
2.
Yep. So, and
we found one.
We found one and we didn't find the other.
Yeah.
I remember too, there was another story with one of our fosters, and the kitten was like 8 weeks old, and they had it in the yard with them, and they turned around and it was gone.
Yeah.
And they didn't tell us that the cat went missing.
Yeah.
And they looked for it, and after 3 days, they told us the foster cat was missing.
Yeah.
And that was a kitten, an 8-week-old kitten in their yard. So like you just can't trust that. And
No.
especially if you're fostering for an organization, don't do that. Just
Yeah.
don't take them outside.
Yeah.
And then one of the other cats, did she push the screen out? She was a mom cat and she had kittens.
She pushed the screen out.
She pushed the screen out and went out. But didn't she do it twice because they didn't fix the problem in the first place?
No. So the first time she got out doing the screen, and fortunately she had kittens, so they were able to play the recording of the kittens like really loud, kittens in distress, right? And then the mom comes barreling back in. And then after they fixed that screen in the window, it was summer. So it was kind of toasty, right? And so they left the door open, like their sliding glass door open, and she got out.
And then we found her again.
And then we took
And then
her
we
away.
took them away because
Yeah,
that
we're like,
was-
dude, not the third time is not the charm in
Mm,
this case. She's going to be gone.
Yeah. So when I was younger, my first cats, so I was probably 20 years old, they were indoor cats. And my boyfriend at the time, his brother was moving out. And I didn't know this. It was very sudden. He left the door open
Mm-hmm.
and my cat Hex got out. And I was crying. I was so mad. Curses was a little bit more shy, and so she didn't explore, but Hex was very exploratory. And after about 3 days, I started to worry. This was back in the days before social media, so I put an
Right,
ad
yeah.
in the newspaper. And I ran that ad every day for a month. But after about 2 weeks, people stopped asking me if my cat came back. Like, they
Yeah.
were just like, she's not coming back. And I didn't want to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
So every day for about 30 days, I ran this ad and I realized I let it lapse. And I was like, I guess I'll just try for one more week. And the next day, someone called me and they had found her like 10 miles away.
That's crazy.
And she just kind of collapsed in their arms and they had, kind of put her up in their shed or whatever.
Right.
And I saw her and I started bawling. So what we think happened.
You cry a lot. You've been crying a lot in this
Well,
episode.
this my baby. I never had a pet like that before.
Mhm.
I had one cat and my mom made me leave him with her when I moved out and I missed him so much. And so my boyfriend got me the 2 cats for Christmas. And, I had never experienced this before. So I was so glad I had her back. And she was not very nice to Curses when she came back. And the next morning, there was a door in our kitchen that went to the roof.
Mm-hmm.
It was not really a deck. It was just a flat roof. I opened the door and Hex was on the outside. And I was like, what the heck? You just came back. How did you do that? The brother had left the window open
Oh, bloody
in
hell.
his room and she jumped down onto
Yeah.
the eave. And I was like, you didn't learn anything.
No, they don't. They don't.
So, yeah, she was very exploratory. But
Yeah.
after that, we had to be very, very careful
Mhm.
because she was really curious.
Right.
And, once a cat goes out, often they get more
Wanna
curious
go,
and
yeah.
they want to keep going again. So it's better not to introduce them to
Mm-mm.
that world
Yeah.
at all.
Well, unless you have a catio, because they can still explore outside and
and
you
sniff
know
the
get this
things
yeah
and see
and then
stuff.
right watch the butterflies. It's great if you had like a hummingbird thing for them to see, for them to engage, right? But also
Safely.
safety wise, like my cats they're indoor only, but they do have a catio scenario, and
They have a
they
little
are-
window and a
yeah
ramp that goes out to like
the,
an enclosed ramp and
Mhm.
they go down to the little
caddy
window
like
ledge.
little well because we have the window ledge right outside the bathroom, and then we have a doggy door, so it goes out the bathroom, around the house, down into like a little little
almost
5x5
like
or
yeah,
something?
like almost like a large kennel.
Right, and
But just enough for them to explore.
exactly, and they're quite happy doing that. They haven't. They'll be outside all day long if they could, but we have not lost them because they've got their outdoor fix, I guess.
Probably the last thing we can talk about to wrap this up is people, they want to do GPS collars
Yeah.
or Apple tags,
Air tags.
air tags. So our first bit of advice is
Don't lose your dog.
don't lose your dog. No, really. Like if your dog is wandering, putting a GPS collar on them shouldn't make you feel better. You need to stop them wandering.
Right. Well, not just that, but people, can you please stop thinking it's okay just to let your dog out the front door to go piss and shit in the neighborhood and then come back? Because one day they're not coming back. And it's happened so many times. And I'm sorry, that's so damn lazy of you. Just put your dog on a leash, go outside and walk it. Or, you know, that's for the ones who don't have a yard. Or maybe they have a yard and they just want them to go out in the front door. I don't understand it.
Going back to what you said about using the flexi leash, the only application of using the flexi leash would be a situation like that. Clip the flexi leash to your dog's collar, have it like tethered to the porch, let them go out, then they come back. Don't walk your dog on flexi leashes, please. Not at all.
No. Right.
But this is a good way if your dog needs to wander and sniff and they take half an hour in the rain or whatever it is, do that. Or have a zip line.
Yeah, like in the backyard, have a tether, a zip line tether or whatever. They don't need to go out your front door to either be coyote food or pizza pavement or some random person grab your dog and go.
The other thing about harnesses, we don't like harnesses for walking as the only form of security. If you have a harness, you should clip it to
The martingale.
the collar too. We prefer martingale collars because those kind are really hard to escape from. Harnesses are, you can say what you want, but they are so easy to get out of most of the time. And before I had Motley Zoo, we were at an adoption event and I was fostering for this other group. The family adopted a dog, took it out in the parking lot. It pulled out of the harness, ran into the road and got run over right in front of
Holy
them.
crap. No harnesses. Well, no, I mean.
And that happened actually at one of our events. One of the fosters thought they were cute and brought a harness that was really pretty, and the dog got out of it in the parking lot and almost got hit. We don't like harnesses.
And that's when we started using the martingales.
Exclusively. And Max and Neo, thank you, Max and Neo. They donate to organizations like ours. You can also purchase Max and Neo martingale collars for rescues. They have a locking feature.
Yes.
So you can lock it so that the buckle will never come apart.
You do have to put them on appropriately because sometimes people make them too loose.
Oh, yeah. It's not like jewelry.
No, yeah.
It's like as high up as you can.
Yeah.
And snug.
Yeah, not I mean like 2 fingers, you know, like
The last tip, as this has happened to a few people a few times, secure your dog when they're in the car and teach them not to jump out of the car
seatbelt harnesses.
until you allow them to. We had a foster who, I don't know, she must have put the dog in the car herself. And I don't know how she didn't get the spiel or it didn't sink in or something, but we're really pretty good about talking to people about it. They didn't secure her and she was a super freaky deaky dog. And as soon as she got to her house, the dog jumped out. She couldn't grab the leash in time and the dog was running down the highway. And people were stopping, thankfully, and Donna and Miley went and got her. But it was not easy to catch her because she was super freaky deaky. I'm rethinking my statement about how infrequently this has happened to us.
Well, no, I mean,
It's still infrequent compared to other organizations.
No,
But
well, I mean, it's not that we haven't had a lot of lost dogs.
well, and
Like,
permanently
where
lost,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We've had dogs get loose. You know, and then that because of these dogs that get loose, then we tighten our rules, right?
Yes. Well,
Tone.
we have done like 2.5 episodes time with this episode.
Okay, so to wrap it up, what have we learned today about lost pets? The minute you lose your pet, you go to 3retrievers.com. You read the steps that you need to take to find your lost dog. You reach out to social media. You
Put
get
posters
those,
up.
Yeah, you get those posters up, and then you just start doing everything else on Jim's list. because he has success.
And we're going to do its own episode about pet technology
The
and
GPS
the
collars.
GPS stuff. Just don't rely on them as an option to keep your pet safe, because
Yeah.
it's not going to keep them from running in the road. It's not
Right.
going to keep a predator from hurting them.
Right.
It's not going to keep them safe. It's a false sense of security. You might know where they are.
I mean, it's a good backup plan, okay?
It is a good backup plan.
It's not your first what's that?
Line of defense.
That one. Yeah, it's not your first line of defense. It's your backup plan.
All right. Well, we are wrapping this up, and we will have the link to Jim Branson's site and some of the information that we wrote a blog about it when Danny was found.
Right.
We will link those things in our, what's it called? Transcript. and then you can check out more information there. If
Yeah.
you want to talk to us, email us at rescueshit@mottleyzoo.org. And otherwise, I'm Jamie.
I'm Patty. This is our podcast, Rescue Shit. Rock on.
Rescue on.